As I pull double shift tonight, recording my second pod for this evening, welcome to the West Tigers podcast, episode number 351. I'm joined tonight with just one person, the newest member of the West Tigers podcast team, who we can't seem to get off since you started coming on, Nick. How are you this evening, mate?
I'm good, Gary. You make it sound like I'm a bad smell. What are you saying?
Mate, just like when I get a text message from you that I ignore for days, I may do the same tonight. But you're the only one who actually managed to show up. So we're going to start with our traditional one word, but our one word's slightly different tonight. I want one word for the rest of the guys who didn't show up here tonight.
Okay, one word. I don't have a word for each of them. I've got probably one word, which is collective. And now I can think of some words starting with F, C, and K, but I'm not going to go there tonight. I'll leave that one to Eddie. But the word that I chose was weary. But you know what? In defense of Joel and Eddie, who I think are the two originals for this podcast, I have done some research to back this up. So I had a little look this afternoon. The first ever episode of this podcast was recorded by Joel and Eddie back in November 2018. So since November 2018, which was basically the end of that season, since 2019, West Tigers have played, until today, a total of 136 NRL matches. We've won 38 of those 136 matches, and we've lost 98, which is a win percentage of 28%. So in defense of all of you guys, including Steve and Declan, you've done the hard yards over a long, long time. I don't blame you for being weary because it's very hard to keep backing up when there's not a great deal of positive stuff to talk about. Gary.
So in defense of them, or we've lost that many because of the boys started the pod?
No, I'm not blaming anyone for the losses. It's none of your fault as a collective from the podcast team. I actually thank you guys for doing this. You know, I stumbled across you. I was a bit late to podcast, but I stumbled across you a bit over a year ago now, and I've been stuck like glue. And I'm so stuck that I'm here. I'm actually embedded. Like that really cheap super glue you get from Bunnings. It's, you know, I attach you guys to my fingertips and I can't let go now. I'm stuck here, mate.
So I've taken a little bit of creative license with our one word for this week, and I've gone through all the members of our podcast, and I'm actually comparing them to one of our current West Tigers players. Of course, I'm going to start with the best. I'm going to start with myself, and my comparison was to Appy, because look, double shift tonight, a pod last week. Like, I'm just the workhorse, the reliable leader that is always here, and gives everything that I have. So I think Appy's an apt kind of comparison for me. Your thoughts, Nick?
I actually do see that, Gary, and especially with Appy's bleach blonde hair at the top, you've got the same because it's so blonde I can't see it.
Well, that's a bit harsh, and I'm about to give you a rap because you're actually second on my list, and I actually had you down as Sam Fainu, like the young up-and-comer, standing out on an edge, just kind of carrying the team.
That is very nice of you, Gary. I appreciate that, mate. As you know, I love Sam Fainu. He's all that, isn't he? Just like myself.
Now, with the other guys being here, that may be where these compliments end. I've got Declan as John Bateman, too busy off over in the UK to bother showing up and putting in for us.
I can see that. Got the accent there too. Yep.
Eddie's Adam Doueihi for me. He talks a good game about being committed to this podcast and putting in the hard yards, but whenever we need him, he's not here. I don't know where he is tonight. So for me, that's Adam Doueihi. Joel is Justin Olam. We can barely ever get him to back up two in a row. So he never does two episodes in a row. Steve, I've just got as Clemmer, the elder statesman who's probably on his way out of ready for retirement. And I actually included Jordan as well as Justin Matamua. Lots of promise, but you rarely see him.
I do like that. I like Justin Matamua. He hasn't been given enough opportunity, and I do fly the flag for Jordan too. I'd love to see him back. Come on, Jordan. Get on the phone, mate. Get back in.
I think he had some poor excuse because I did ask him to come on tonight. It was some poor excuse like his wedding anniversary. Like priorities.
That is poor. I mean, your anniversary, no better reason to jump on the pod. Like, honestly, my wife would love me being on the pod during our anniversary. She loves me that much.
Yeah, my wife just likes me being in a different room. It doesn't matter what it's for. So we'll actually start the pod proper now instead of me just trying to be funny. There was a little bit of news come out this afternoon. The Behind the Raw episode with Tim Johansson actually was released this afternoon. I haven't listened to it myself, but I know that you listened to at least some of it. Part of what came out of that is he's actually re-signed with the club for 2 years.
He has, yeah. It was actually an interesting listen. To be honest, I really didn't know much about him at all before the last game. I'd only seen leading into the Cowboys game. I'd seen the highlights of him scoring that 50-meter try for the Magpies when they beat the Warriors in Auckland. So, yeah, I had no idea about Tim Johansson's background, but yeah, very interesting. I think he's got some Spanish heritage, born in Switzerland. I think he's the first Swiss player ever or Swiss-born player to play NRL. I think he said he'd come through the Bulldogs junior system. Won the Harold Maths or something last year? I can't remember. But you're shaking your head, Garen. I know you haven't done any research either or listened to the pod, but no, he speaks really well. He seems very devoted to a lot of things. Especially football. It's funny actually. He did talk about when he won the lower grade grand final that he considered walking away from the game, and his father, who had been backing him to play rugby league since he was a little fellow, convinced him to give it another go. So
yeah, before he debuted, there was the stories that at the start of the season, he was fairly close to not playing. So what a huge rise from contemplating quitting the game to making your NRL debut this year.
It really was, Gary. And, I was sitting there in your seat. Thank you very much at Leichhardt for the Cowboys game. Thanks for not coming, by the way. Would have been nice to sit and watch a game with you. But anyway, I did get the pleasure of almost on halfway right behind the players, the reserves there. So, but his first hit up, and actually during the pod that I listened to today, he did talk about before he ran out, he said Benji gave him some advice. He said, someone told me, and this is Benji speaking, before my first game, all he said to me was, when I first get the ball in my hands, don't drop it. Run the ball hard and you'll enjoy the rest of the game. And I remember his first hit up, he ran the ball at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I'm pretty sure a couple of plays later, he was taking another hit up. So he was doing his best in the 26 minutes that he played against the Cowboys. I know he's on the extended bench this week against the Knights. I would like to see him again in top grade. And I know Benji's kind of been tiptoeing a few of these young guys in for the debut and brings them back out fairly quickly. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him play again. I think he's got some potential there.
So what are your thoughts around that re-signing, a 2-year re-signing? You think it's a good move for the club?
2 years, it's a show of faith from Benji in Tim, to be honest. Obviously Benji and the our club has seen a lot more of him than what we probably have as West Tigers fans, I suppose, from the NRL side. But it obviously shows that he's got a lot of potential and they see something in him more than just a player. So the way he spoke on the podcast, he did sound quite confident within himself. So I think he's 22 years old, so he's only young as well. And he did say that he was very keen to stick around at the club and be a part of the young generation, that next generation of players that's coming up towards NRL. He really wanted to be a part of that. So I did like the way that he spoke about himself and his love for footy and also, his love for the West Tigers at the moment. So that's only, it's a positive for us.
For me, it's been a really quick rise because, as I said earlier, he started the season with Ryde Eastwood and got up into the reserve grade side, the New South Wales Cup side, and was pushing out really good meters, averaging over 120 meters a game in those New South Wales Cup sides. So there obviously is a fair bit of potential there.
There is. It kind of reminds me a little bit, if I go way back in time to 2008. So you may all remember the original Dane Laurie, that the big back rower, Indigenous fellow with the big dreadlocks. Geez, he was awesome to watch. But I remember at the start of 2008, he got plucked out of country football for a trial with the Magpies. And I actually, during 2008, I spent a bit of time with the Magpies, and I remember him turning up to the trial training run, and he had a pot belly. He didn't look overly fit, but he was big and lanky. And I thought, have a look at this guy. And within a good 4 to 6 weeks, he'd trimmed right down. He was hitting the gym. He was building up, and he was really making an impression on the football field. And halfway through that 2008 season with the Magpies, I remember Tim Sheens coming to a lot of the New South Wales Cup games and watching. And I remember him talking to Leo Epifanio, who was the coach at the Magpies at the time, saying, "Who's this kid? Who's this Dane Laurie?" And he had his eyes on him. And before you knew it, he was debuting against the Broncos at Suncorp for the NRL team. And he made a huge impact from his first game in the NRL. So I'm not saying that Tim Johansson's going down that same path, but I just see similarities with how he's come out of basic obscurity, into New South Wales Cup, and then debuting last week for West Tigers. How good was that? I'd love to see him pursue it and keep going. Be a good story.
Now, we're going to preview the game this weekend against the Knights towards the end of the show. But it's been a fairly dour season. It's been another tough season for West Tigers fans. So I thought for the next 5 to 10 minutes, we'll have a little bit of a discussion about 2025. Players that we could look at, players that we have on our books at the moment that we should let go. We've got a few players off contract, so we'll probably start with them. I'm going to give you for the next 5 to 10 minutes, you can be Shane Richardson. You can make these decisions for our club without fear or favour. So having a look at the players that we have off contract, we've got Solomon Alamalo, who is off contract at the end of the season. Sione Fainu is off contract. Aiden Caesar has a mutual option, I think, a club option for next season. So potentially off contract as well. What are your thoughts around those guys, Mr. Shane Richardson? What decisions are you going to be making there?
So as Shane Richardson, you are Benji Marshall. So I've told you as the head coach that it's your team. But saying that, Benji, I'm talking to you.
Are you trying to wiggle out of giving an answer, or
Benji, don't talk. First thing, don't talk over the top of the CEO. So when I'm talking to you, you've got to listen, mate. The team is yours, but the club is mine. So just sit back and just listen for a minute, okay? So I'm going to give you some names and some thoughts, but I want your opinion because it's your team, as I've said. So if we start in order of your list, Solomon Alamalo. So you know what? For me, do we keep him? I think he's a maybe. But again, I'd like your feedback. But I don't think he would be one of our 2 top starting wingers for 2025, but I would like to see him retained for the Magpies next season, predominantly. And I'd like to see him keep building on the club combinations that he's already working on this year, and also his rugby league experience, because as you know, we plucked him from rugby or Super Rugby, whatever it's called, that boring rugby snoozian game.
Yeah, Declan likes it, I think.
Yep, I'm not surprised. Hi, Declan, by the way. Hope you're enjoying your holiday. But yeah, Benji, what do you think about Solomon? If he's not taking up, I don't know if we give him a top 30 spot, but I would like to see him retained within the club.
Look, that's my thoughts exactly. There's not a lot of roster space in our top 30. We have freed a couple of guys up already, and I think we're in the process of freeing up a couple more spots. But we do have a number of our junior guys on development contracts, who, as part of their contract structure, get automatic upgrades into the top 30. I'm not sure how many it is this year, but and that's been a little bit of an issue for us. I think we've made really poor decisions around players that we've done that with in the past. I think Brandon Toomuth is probably the prime example of a guy who we had on a development contract who automatically upgraded into a top 30 spot and hasn't been cited.
Yeah.
So we've got another couple of guys coming up into that. So that takes up a few of those spots that we kind of have free at the moment. So we've got to work on that. And because of that, I can't really give Solomon a top 30 spot. I think he would I'd be happy to have him on a Magpies. So those train and trial deals for your New South Wales Cup players,
Yep.
whether he's willing to accept that. I saw an article through the week where he spoke about the club hasn't really given him even a hint of what they're going to do with him next year.
Yep.
And he spoke that possibly of returning to rugby. And so for me, I'd be happy to have him on one of those New South Wales Cup level contracts. But whether he's happy with that or he'd go back to Super Rugby in that case is probably. And the thing you got to be careful of with him is if he was 21, 22 years old, then you're probably looking at that keeping him around. What is he, 27, 28 years old?
Yeah.
And it doesn't give him a lot of time to make that transition. So the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, I'm probably talking myself out of even that New South Wales Cup level. But I think that's the best we can offer him.
I think you're right. He most likely came to the West Tigers for an opportunity in the NRL. And if he hasn't been at this point of the season spoken to about opportunities for next year.
It kind of gives you a hint, doesn't it? If you haven't got a hint from the club that they want to keep you, then that's probably a hint that there's not going to be much of an opportunity there.
And I just checked my calendar as Shane Richardson. Actually forgot to pencil in that meeting with Solomon. So yeah, whoops, sorry, Solomon. You might be in the recycle bin.
Do you think that there would be other clubs looking at signing him to an NRL level contract?
No.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the telling thing for me. I think it's probably one we'll see off our books at the end of this season. Sione Fainu is another guy who is off contract at the end of this season. Your thoughts on that one, Nick?
I'd love to see him stay. So he's played 9 games this year. He's scored 2 tries, which actually equals the career tally for Alex Twal, our other try-scoring beast of the forward. So the other part of Sione as well, I actually wonder. I have a feeling that we the 3 Fainu boys probably enjoy all being at the club together. I know that there's been a couple of interviews with them during the year, especially at the start of the year when they all came across and all part of the one club, and they weren't sure whether that was ever going to happen, whether they all get to play together on the field at the same time. So that's happened, which is great. But I'd love to keep them all invested and connected to the West Tigers. Sam, as we've spoken about, he's the key for me. I can honestly see him playing Origin in 2 to 3 years if he's developed properly, and if the club start getting a little bit of success on the field, I think he'll really start getting noticed. He's that good. Like, he's got so much skill, as you've seen Gary. So yeah, I would honestly, I'd definitely look to extend Sione.
Yeah, I'd be looking to extend him as well. And you're right. The part around his brothers is a key part of that. But I think he's earned that extension in his own right. I think his form this year has been quite good and has been one of our more dangerous middles when he's spent time out on the field. I think, honestly, I think Pole and Sione are probably our 2 best props this season. Now, I'm not saying he's having a world-beating season, but I think the other guys have been quite poor. So I'd be happy to give him an extension on that contract that he has. The other one who we're looking at the moment is Aidan Sezer. So your thoughts around what to do with Aidan? We have a club option for next year, so we can pick him up and just keep him next year. Would you be looking at doing that, Nick?
I would. I think Aidan probably knows that next year he's not going to be a first choice half. He's also at that pointy end of his career where I dare say he's probably, if he's going to go around again, it's probably only going to be 1 more year. If we were to sit down with Aidan and say, you're predominantly going to play New South Wales Cup because we need you to add the experience into that Cup team and really help to develop the youngsters and those guys that are fringe NRL players as well. And the thing too, he's got that added experience now of having that 1 year with the club. So he knows what Benji wants and how he wants the team to play. So he knows what systems Benji has in place. And the calls that the boys are yelling out in the field too. So I think he can add a lot to the strength of our team next season. But yeah, again, it's really what Aiden wants to do. So I don't know if he's ready to walk away at the end of this year and say that's enough, or whether he wants to go again. I'm not sure if he'd get a deal anywhere else either. At another NRL club.
You're not concerned about having so much tied up in your halves by having Jerome Luai, Lockie Galvin, Latu Fainu as your free choice, and then having a guy like Aiden Caesar as your fourth kind of choice half. You're not concerned about having a little bit too much tied up there?
No, I think if we could fit him into the Magpies team, I would definitely like him to stay. I think Latu will be very close to being in the 17 each week next year. That's going to be a tough one with Talon as well, because we really need Talon De Silva involved in that starting team too. So yeah, it's a tricky fit for the puzzle pieces next season. But I would like to see Aiden stay. But yeah, whether we can make it fit or not, I'm not too sure. But I would consider it.
Now, a little bit of a question without notice. I didn't put this one on the run sheet that I sent to you earlier. So I did prepare this week, only because I was hosting, but I did prepare a little bit. But a little bit of a question without notice. Out of the players that we do have on contract next year, who are the key guys you would like to be able to move on before the start of next season?
Oh, to move on. Oh, I really don't want to put the sword through anyone.
Come on, mate. We're going to fire up the shredder. Joel loves the shredder. That's a key part of the West Tigers podcast. Who are you going to put through the shredder?
Probably Solomona Fatape. Sorry, Solomona. I do like him, and he does try hard, and he does look dangerous at times. But you know what? This is the thing, right? This is where I'm worried about putting people through the shredder, because I'm still not sure who's the weak link on that edge. I don't know whether it's him or whether it's Charlie, and we've had that many different combinations. I don't know whether it's the back rower that's out on that side either. I can't even remember who defends out there with them, but I don't even know if it's their fault or whether it's a problem with the way they're coached.
Mentioning Charlie Staines there, is he on contract for next year or is he off contract at the end of this year?
That's a very good question. I will have a quick look. I'm not too sure about Charlie, to be honest.
Look, you're much nicer than I am. We're finished last this year. I think there's 4 or 5 players that we need to get off our books, if possible, heading into the next season. I think guys like John Bateman, we can't really move forward with him. Charlie Staines is another one I really don't think is a good fit here. You got Jaden Sullivan, another guy I think who's on a really poor contract that would be best to move on. Brent Naden pretty much falls into that same category. And I don't like to say this, and I'll probably get a little bit of flack for saying it, but I think Alex Twell's contract is a really bad contract that we have. A 4-year on probably pretty good money, I think is probably a little bit too long for what he's offered. I know defensively he does really well, but I don't think that's a contract we can carry for the whole 4 years. Do you disagree with me on any of those, Nick?
No, I don't. And that we talk about that. I can't remember if it was the last pod. I know Eddie was going on about bad contracts. So we do have a lot of players tied up for terms that are too long on too big a money. I think Alex Twell's on, is it 500 a season?
Look, I don't know what it's on.
Yeah.
Just the 4 years and having. I have a look at our squad and I won't say the lack of depth, but the lack of variety in our squad. And I think having a guy like Alex Seyfarth and a guy like Alex Twell,
it's the same.
Yeah, I think it's too similar. And the form that Alex Seyfarth has shown this year, despite me constantly riding his back, I think the form that he's shown this year is far better than what Alex Twell has actually managed to show.
I agree. I think Seyfarth adds more than 12. 12's a really good, honest forward who works hard, but he doesn't add a lot. He doesn't add any flair. He never looks like he's going to break a line. He does back up a lot, So I know that he does push up, with Appy. I've seen him do that. He's quite often running off Appy's hip or trying to. But yeah, he's not going to be that forward that you look for when you really want to try and make an impact down near the opposition try line. So yeah, as you said, there's some bad contracts that we're carrying. Unfortunately, Richo does need to keep pushing to see what he can do to get rid of some of those contracts. I don't know if he can, but he just needs to keep working on it.
Yeah, I think the Bateman, Sullivan, and Naden contracts, especially, are
Yep.
three that I'd like to see us get off our books over this off season. Before we do move on to a little bit of positive and what players you'd look for next season, the other piece of news that I didn't mention at the top of the show was Justin Olam. They didn't end up challenging his suspension, basically because he's going in for surgery on both knees, and his season's over.
Yeah, I heard he was having a double amputation. Is that correct, or did I get bad news?
Mate,
I hope I hope he's okay. And again, we come back to when he joined. He had injury cloud over his head. There was the doubts whether he was fully fit, and he wasn't. And we've seen that the whole season. He's come back after being out for several games with injuries. Played one and he's been out. He's come back for another and he's been out. So I said before the previous game against the Cowboys, I was looking forward to seeing him get through 80 minutes and then playing consecutive games, and we didn't get that with the send off. But yeah, that news on the surgery, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe this is what he needs. I don't know what type of surgery he's having on those knees, or how serious or how long the recovery might be.
amputation, according to you.
Well, yeah, I don't want to make any jokes on that, and it's not going to be that. Justin, I really want you to recover, mate, because honestly, he is part of my important puzzle pieces for next season. I had a lot of excitement and hope when we signed him. I know he's towards the back end of his career, but he still runs the ball really strong. I still remember watching him in the trials at the start of the year and thought, have a look at him. He looks like he's a Melbourne player wearing a Tigers jersey. And that did seem to fade a little bit as the season went on, but you don't know what sort of an impact his injuries had in regards to his performance. But yeah, I hope his recovery is quick. I hope he's not in rehab for too long. And I'm just hoping by, what are we, we're August. So by Christmas time, he should be back to running or just about. So hopefully he can get a good off season under his belt, preseason, and be firing for 2025, because next year is going to be a big year. I can feel it.
The big thing for me is I thought that first month of football he played this year was a really strong month of football. He was scoring tries, he was belting guys in defence, he was busting tackles, and I know at the time of his signing last year, both Eddie and I were quite critical of that signing, with the thought that Melbourne will let him go because he's busted.
Yeah.
And that first month of football, I'm thinking, oh, this is great. We're so wrong. And then those injuries started to really hit home. And as you said earlier, he struggled to play back-to-back games. Now, a fit and firing Justin Molan is the best center in this club by a mile.
Yep.
So if we can get him fit over this offseason, if these two surgeries that he's having on his knees allow him to get back to the player that we saw at the start of this year for the majority of next season, then this signing still turns out to be a really good signing. If we get the Justin Nolan we had this year, then that signing was a huge mistake, and I have to question kind of our decisions around his medical and why we made that decision, because I've heard people say that he's someone we should be looking to medically retire. You can't medically retire players if you were aware of a injury, like if they had an injury when you signed them. And having a look at what was going on at Melbourne last year with him spending a lot of time off the field and then spending a lot of time out of first grade, I would say there's a fair argument that he was carrying these injuries last year.
100%. And Craig Bellamy's not a silly man, right? He doesn't make decisions for the wrong reason. So there's a reason why he gave up Justin Olam for Shawn Blore. And And yeah, unfortunately, he's had a tough year, Justin Olam, this season. But yeah, next year's the telling one. And you know what? If he doesn't perform, if we have another year like you're saying next year with him, like this year, I'll do the double amputation myself.
Okay. The next part, we'll move on to something slightly positive. Uh, Richo, when he did his Behind the Raw interview a couple of weeks ago, said that there were three players that we needed to fill for spots next year for our side next year. So I'm going to ask you now, who are those three players? What should we be targeting? And I'm not just limiting to you to players who are off contract. If you want to talk about a player, especially if you've heard that some of the players there's been rumblings about at their current clubs, there's a lot of players already who have rumblings around them that they may be on the out at their club. So, what positions you are looking for, and what players would you be looking to put in those positions, Nick?
So as Shane Richardson, I'm shaking some trees. I'm bringing across Stephen Crichton, Brian To'o, and Payne Haas. And I don't care what anyone says; they're coming over. Okay, let's be realistic. They're not coming over. So I have a backup plan. I think we
Yeah,
need.
I must say, you just sounded like Justin Pascoe, not Shane Richardson.
I don't have nice hair like Justin Pascoe. I'd like to.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, back to the plan for next year. I think we need a centre to complement a fully fit and raring to go Justin Olam. So yeah, there's not a lot available if you look at the off contracts. Although there was one name that was being passed around last week, and I know there were differing opinions within this podcast group, but Valentine Holmes, he's my argument for him, right? Gary, you're pulling some faces, but let me talk. I'm the CEO. Remember who you are, Benji. So he's how old is he? I think he's 31. He's still playing Origin, so he's still a quality player. He's still got his speed, and he's a quality goal kicker. I do think he could add to our team. And my question to you, Benji, is: do you think Valentine could be a better centre and better asset to our team than Adam Dwayne?
Did you watch the game last week and see some of his really poor defensive reads?
Yeah, but I want to just talk about him as a whole rather than just that one game. People are going to have bad games, Gary. So sorry, Benji. So yeah,
That
look,
that that's my issue. I think in attack he is still an asset to your team, but my concern is, especially if you're going to play him as a centre, is those defensive reads are not good enough for a side that is leads them. I would say we're having more points scored against us than any other side in the comp. I don't look at stats that often, but from the eye test, we're the worst defensive side statistically, without looking at stats, in the competition. So for me, I think adding a player whose defense is inconsistent at best is probably not the way I'd like to go.
so with Queensland picking him to play Origin, would they pick a player that has dodgy defense, or do you think they're just putting quality players either side of him to?
That's a huge part of it. You have a look at the players he's going to have playing around him. Um, at this point in time, we don't keep Charlie Staines. We don't keep Solomon Alamalo. We're very light on in those in the wingers.
Mm.
We've got Taruva coming, who I think I would be willing to give him a shot at centre next year. I was pretty against that idea when we first signed him, but when you have a look at the depth that we have in that centre position, I'll be looking at giving Taruva a shot in that position next year. Like at this point in time, you sign Valentine Holmes, he's probably going to be playing with Luke Lilly, and that's not the quality of player around him to support him defensively that he had at State of Origin.
Okay, fair argument, Benji.
Thank you. Who else are you looking at? So not to kind of totally diss your first choice, but what else you got for me?
No, that's okay. Honestly, like I was looking at, like I said, the off-contract centres, and there's not a great deal for this year. Again, unless we can go and shake trees and make something happen, there's not a great deal out there. Probably similar for lock. So I think we probably need a lock. And unfortunately, that's been a position that's been rotated around a bit by a few different players this season with our team. I know Bateman's been there, Papali's been there. Who else have we played at lock? Alex Twelve started at lock a couple of times, but yeah, none of those guys are really the ideal lock that we need.
We've even had Clemmer filling that ball playing role.
Yeah,
that you quite often see from a lock, especially in the last month or so. I really don't like that either.
no, me neither. And I think he's wasted as a lock. Yeah, I mean, Clemmer's always been a prop. He's at the aging end of the prop lifespan. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, again, for the off-contract locks, there's not a great deal at the moment coming off this year. There's Matt Eisenhuth, who we've had before. So, you know what? I don't mind him.
Who has done a good job at Penrith.
And I didn't mind him when he was at the Tigers either. He's 6'6". He's a big boy and he's quite rangy. He's got good ball playing skills. He can really stand in the behind the halves and help with a bit of ball playing too. So I don't mind
and the big thing with him as well, I think, is he spent last 3 years. I think he's been at Penrith as Yo's kind of understudy and filling in that role when Yo's been off on Origin duty.
100%. So coming out of a really good system with Jerome and Taruva could be interesting if we could lure him back. I wouldn't be disappointed if he came back. The other options for lock that are off contract, Isaac Liu. I'm not 100% keen on him. He's 33 years old. I think he's probably, I wouldn't want him coming over as a 34-year-old for next season. Tyrone Peachy, we don't want Tyrone. Jazz Tavanga, so Warriors. So it was confirmed last week. I read an article that he's been told he's no longer required and he's ready to move elsewhere. So yeah, 28. He's still got some good years left in him. I don't mind the way he plays, Jazz. Whether he would be my pick for lock, I'm not sure. But yeah, there's not too many options out there in the market.
There's also a few players who are rumoured around their clubs. Dylan Walker, I think I've seen his name mentioned a little bit. Jason Tomalolo is not getting a lot of time up at North Queensland. Hopgood is possibly on the outer as well. Any of those guys kind of interest you at all?
Tamalolo maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, before he signed that $1 million contract
for 10 years.
Yeah, for 10 years.
Yeah, correct. How far is he? 8 years into that 10-year contract?
I don't know. It was I thought it was a ridiculous contract at the time, and I don't think it's looking any better now.
It was. I'd probably I won't like. I was going to liken the way he plays to Fanua Pole, just that just hard, fast running, more like a prop.
When Pole first came through, there was a little bit of talk around that he was a miniature Tomalolo.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that style of player, I can see it the way that he plays. Yeah, I'm not too sure if we get much value at his age, to be honest. So, yeah, we're moving on.
It's a big no. That's a big.
It's a big no.
Yeah. If you're going for one of those guys, I'm probably looking at Dylan Walker. I know his form's been a little bit up and down, but he can at least do that ball playing lock role.
Yep.
I do still think a possibility for that lock position next year is Latu Fainu. If you're trying to get both him and Talon De Silva into the side, then that's probably a way you can do that. I want Pole moving into that prop rotation, so we definitely need to do something around that lock position for mine.
Yeah, I'd like to see a different style of lock. I know that, like we've said, Benji's tried different players being that ball player, that link player. It hasn't really worked with the players that we have. But I wonder if that's been discussed or brought up with Latu, even as just a thinking point, whether he'd consider playing there or even,
Because defensively, he's a big body and I think he has the potential to make that switch to that position.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one, Gary / Benji.
So I've pretty much shut down both your options with current players we have at the club. But I do agree that centre and lock are two real key positions we need to get sorted out. And they're probably positions I'm going to market to. The guys that I've kind of mentioned in that, having in that role as backup if we don't get anyone else. You have one position left in your 30-man roster. Nick, who What position and who are you looking at?
It's a prop. I think we need to replace Stefano. And I know we've spoken about him before, and I'm not 100% sure where he's at. But Nelson Asafa Solomona, I would still be looking seriously at him. So he's 28.
So would I.
Yeah, so I actually thought he was older than 28. He just seems like he's been around forever and playing, top level NRL for a long time too. So, he's coming from Melbourne Storm, one of the greatest, clubs that's been around for a long, long time now, and successful clubs too. So he knows exactly what hard work is all about, because that's what Craig Bellamy is all about, instilling that in his players and his team, and his structures. It's all about hard work, and that's what success is built off the back of. And I did watch an interview with him earlier where he was talking about his plans. They were asking him about what his plans were for next year, and he wasn't overly. He was fairly vague in the way he was responding to the questions. He didn't know. He didn't say he was going to stay. He said he'd like to stay. He was leaving it with his manager and with the officials at the club to work out. So I don't think he knows what he's doing next season. And we've still got the war chest that Richo's building. So there's money in the bank. I think he could be a really good replacement for Stefano next season. I'd be targeting him.
So other guys that are rumoured to be on the adder at the club, Regan Campbell-Gillard and Corey Horsburgh. Any interest in any of those two? I know you mentioned Corey the other night. You said you'd take him, and then I kind of gave my reasoning, and you changed your mind. So tonight, would you take him, or are you back to agreeing with me?
I'd take Regan Campbell-Gillard over Corey
Yes,
Horsburgh. But if we were struggling come January and we still hadn't found a prop to replace Stefano, and Corey Horsburgh was jumping up and down saying, "Can I come to Concord?" I wouldn't say no. I think he still has some value, but he wouldn't be my top couple of targets.
And interesting, chatting to Steve this week in our group chat as well. He's very keen on that signing.
On Corey?
Yeah.
He loves redheads, a bit like myself, Gary.
Well, yeah. I won't mention any more about that because I don't have any. I'm not a redhead. I'm a red beard.
Red face.
Red face. We'll move on to the game preview. We're up against the Knights this weekend in what should be quite a winnable game. We're heading up to Newcastle Sunday afternoon, 4:00. Who are the key players for the Knights we've got to really keep an eye on this week?
Kalyn Ponga for a start. Kalyn is Kalyn, so on his day he's pretty unstoppable. He's got great footwork. He's got speed. He can lift the team around him. So he's huge. We're really got to keep an eye on him and try and cut him down, not let him get too involved, which will be very difficult. Dane Gagai, he's caused a lot of havoc over the years from multiple clubs against the West Tigers. So he's still got.
For a long time, only played well in State of Origin against the Tigers.
Yeah, correct. So let's hope he doesn't run too much rampage against us on the weekend. Just looking through the team, I'm interested to have a look at Daniel Saifiti as well. I think he played quite well. Did he score a try last week? I think for the Knights. I think he might have got their first one.
I didn't actually watch the game last week, so.
No, me neither, mate. I think I might have seen something in the highlights, but I know that he's been a name too that's been discussed as a potential.
Yeah, both the Saifiti brothers are potentially on the outer at Newcastle, so possibly they're getting a little bit of an audition for Benji Marshall this weekend.
Quite possibly. So Daniel Saifiti up against Stefano Utoikamanu, so that would be an interesting battle. Keen to see as well how Steph goes the rest of the year, and I hope he stands up and gives it to Saifiti, but we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, I don't care.
You don't care? No, fair enough. And the old fella, Tyson Frizzell, I still like the way he plays too. He runs the ball hard. He'll be hard to stop if the Knights are 10 metres out, hitting our line pretty quick. So, they've got some big boys, as a lot of teams seem to have, as Joel would agree. We do tend to get matched pretty well with the physicality of a lot of matches.
So are you predicting Joel's one word for next week already?
Physicality. I think that could well be top of the tree for Joel. Physicality.
For the Tigers, we have Aiden Caesar making his return, Adam Doueihi making his return, Clemmer starting, and Pole back to the bench. What are your thoughts around those positional changes and those players coming back from suspension and injury?
I do like Fanua off the bench. I've always liked him off the bench. I love the way he runs the ball. He's very quick for a back. I reckon he could match it with a lot of or for a forward. Sorry, he could match it with a lot of backs. Probably from any team. I remember him making a cover tackle a few games ago and pulling someone down into touch who was looking to score down the left edge. I don't remember who that was, but I remember the effort because the game was gone and he made a very impressive run diagonally across the field in cover defence, which was unreal. But I love the way he plays, especially off the bench. I think he'll add a little bit of impact when we need it at times. I'd like to see him come on.
I think his footwork around tiring defenders late in the first half,
very dangerous.
Yeah, could be if it's a nice tight game, could be the difference.
Yeah, I hope it is the difference for us, and I'd love to see him score a meat pie or two. He's a great player. Aidan Sezer back. I mean, we didn't have a great deal of choice, right, with Latu out after the HIA.
It's really disappointing. All season, I've been waiting for Latu to get a real good block of time.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a really good opportunity for that to happen. Earlier in the season, he had the hamstring issues. And then he gets into the halves. He makes it through one game where we didn't even start him in the halves. We started Appy instead and put him on later in the game. And then we finally started him in the halves. And 20 minutes or so into that game, he takes a head knock and is out, misses the next game through the HIA protocols. Really disappointing for me, that.
Yeah, really disappointing, Gary. I agree with that. And, I really wanted to see him and Lockie play 2 or 3 or more games together in halves just to see what they can do combination-wise. A couple of young guys with a lot of skill. And like you said, we haven't seen a lot of Latu this season. I was really looking forward to watching him play 80 minutes last week, like Olam as well. And we were robbed on both occasions. So, yeah, very disappointing for Latu. Really hope he's back in the field next week.
And I think Aidan Sezer's last couple of months of football has been quite poor. Getting a second suspension for it's not even a hip drop tackle he does. He kind of grabs him around the waist and lifts his body off the ground and doesn't come down on his hip. He comes almost down vertically onto the players. And the fact that he got a 4-week suspension earlier in the season and then turns it almost exactly the same. Like he didn't learn his lesson at all.
Yeah. It is really hard when the team's undisciplined and one of your senior players is doing that, multiple times. Yeah, it lets everyone down. Yeah, not just the players, but lets all the fans down. So lets Benji down. It's just it is unforgivable.
And to have a senior half suspended for 6 weeks in the season really hurts you, especially 100%. When you've got a young kid playing 5'8".
100%. How many players are we up to now? Is it 38 or is it more for the NRL team?
I think it's still at 38. Oh, yeah, I think Johansson made it 38 with the game that he played, and there's no more debuting or no more playing the first game of the season this week.
Yeah, what I'd like to see too is I'd like to list our team 1 through 17 and put down the names of each player that's played in each position across the year. I'd love to see how many different people have been in the different combinations. It's been very messy.
Really, the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that's probably been there every single week would be Jahream Bula.
Yep. Number 1. Yeah, I don't think he's missed a game.
So he hasn't missed a game, and I don't think there's anyone else. Because Sam Fainu didn't start the season and was coming off the bench anyway. So I can't think of anyone. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else who's kind of, played that full season.
Well, touch wood, Gary. I don't want to be in a mock. I'd love to see Jahream get through the rest of the season unscathed. He definitely deserves it. And as we discussed on last week's pod too, and as Eddie pointed out, because I know Eddie's had some mixed feelings about Jahream, but Jahream had a cracker last week, and I'd love to see him continue that. He played with a lot of confidence last week, which is awesome to watch.
Look, if we are going to win this weekend, I think a lot of it falls onto Jahream. I really like that combination he had with Porter. I
Yep.
thought running off those offloads that he was showing, I think that is a way, that is something we can do against Newcastle. They've got a fairly big forward pack, but I don't think they're necessarily that strong. I think looking for offloads to Dream following the forward through the middle is a real chance that we can open up Newcastle on the weekend.
I agree. I'm looking forward to watching Ruben play again this week. I think it's a really good chance for our forwards to see where they can, or if they can match up against Newcastle. I'd love to see them have a real crack up there this weekend. And the other player you mentioned, Gary, was Adam Dewey, or Dwayne, depending on
Oh
how you
yeah,
like to pronounce it.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, but it's. I think this is a huge chance for Adam to prove his worth because he came back after that long break with his recovery from his knee and had an absolute blinder, where he scored that long try and showed that he had more pace than we'd ever seen before. And then he backed it up with a decent game. I can't remember, we played the second week, and then he came up out with a couple of stinkers, and he's been out since then. So I think this week's going to be telling for him. I think it's probably going to give us a look at where he's at personally, and where he might fit next year. So we're talking about centre position. It's funny because after he came back and had that blinder in his first game back, you all locked him in. I don't think I was even on this pod then. You all locked him in for a centre role for next season if he can play like that. No, Steve was saying he could wear 3 or 4. It doesn't really matter. But if he can come out the next, or at least let's start one game at a time. If he can come out on the weekends and prove again that he is worthy of being a centre and adds a lot of value to the team, then I'd be willing to consider him holding a centre jersey for next season. However, as we've spoken about, he's got some fragility around his defence too. So need to have a good look at him again this week.
I won't go too in depth into Adam Dewey because every time I do, I get in trouble. But defensively, he's got a long way to go to earn that centre spot. And I think at times he's a marvelous attacking centre, but he needs to use the guys around him. He needs his fingers need to be a little less sticky and setting up his outside players and improve that defense. So he has his moments where, look, honestly, I see a really good center there. That's why I get frustrated. That's why I end up sitting here and criticizing him because I can see a really strong player there, potentially one of the best centers in the game. But there's issues in his game, and I think some of those issues come down to attitude, and that's what I get frustrated with him. Hopefully, he can turn it around. I'd love to fully support him because at his best, a center pairing of Adam Dewey and Justin Olam, both at their best, is a really strong center pairing, is probably as good as any in the game.
Yep.
But neither of them at their best at the moment, and that's probably the issue for mine.
I agree with that. I do like the idea of those two guys in the centres with a couple of good quick wingers outside them, whether it's Taruva or Luke Laley either on the other side. So, and a couple of good outside or edge forwards on the inside of those centres too, just to strengthen up that defence. So there's potential there, but yeah, we need to see that potential built into something rock solid.
Now, we're going to have to get through the next couple of things really quickly because this is turning into a marathon pod, even though there's two of us. Your prediction for this weekend?
Look, for the fans, I'm going to say the Tigers are going to have an upset win this week. We are due, and I don't think we're too far away. I really don't. I know we've been letting in a lot of points the last 3 to 4 weeks, which hasn't been pretty to watch. But on the flip side, the attack is starting to click. So I know when you get towards the end of the season and you're struggling ladder-wise, that you can tend to get a little bit sloppy sometimes in certain areas of the game. But I do like what we're starting to see with the attack. They are loosening up and combinations are starting to look pretty sharp. So I'm going to call a Tigers win. I think it'll probably be fairly high scoring again. I'm going to say 34-28 Tigers.
Wow. A lot of points this week.
A lot of points, mate. A lot of points. Not holding back.
Potentially, this is probably, I think, our best chance of a victory for the remainder of the season. So hopefully the boys come out nice and fired up and we can get away with a win. Contain Kalen Ponga, and I think you go a long way to winning this game. We'll move on to Yachty's quiz. We're running short of time, so we're going to whip through it. It is Nick versus Nick, I guess, tonight.
I can't lose.
Well, you can, because if you don't answer any questions right, you probably join Steve as the worst performance ever on Yachty's quiz. So
I love Steve. So if I can do something Steve's done, that I'll be proud. Let's give it a go.
okay. So question number 1. In Benji's debut game against the Knights at Campbelltown Stadium, I remember this game, went out to it. Which West Tigers player did not score multiple tries? We won the game 52-12, so there was multiple players that scored more than one try. So which player out of these 4 did not score multiple? A, Daniel Fitzhenry, B, Ben Galea, C, John Wilson, or D, Lincoln Withers?
John Wilson. Sorry, John.
Incorrect. John Wilson actually got a hat trick.
Oh, wow. He didn't score 2. See? I was right. Oh, you said multiple. Okay.
I did say multiple. You won't get Yachty on that one. So it actually was B, Ben Galea. Ben Galea scored 1 try, and LaFranchi got 1 as well. True or false? Question 2.
False.
The last time
you said you're in a hurry, Gary.
The last time we beat the Knights as the home team was before COVID-19.
True.
False.
I said false.
Beat them 36-18 at Suncorp Stadium in Magic Round in 2021.
There you go.
So we were the designated home. So this is a very Yachty quiz. He gets you on technicalities. Okay, yeah. Question 3. How many times did Andrew Johns and Benji Marshall face one another at club level?
Ooh.
Nearest to the pin, so you can't actually lose this question.
8.
It was 1.
Oh, there you go. Pretty close.
Round 10, 2006. We lost 16-18 at Campbelltown. Okay. Question 4. Name 3 West Tigers players. And I will point out, we're up to question 3. There's 5 questions. So we're up to question 4. There's 5 questions. And you're currently on 0 points.
I did say false for question 2, which was correct, until you made me wait.
But then you changed it to true.
You should have taken the first answer, Gary. Anyway.
You can't say both answers and then expect to get it right. On a 50-50 question, you gave both answers.
Come on, mate. Keep it going. Let's go. Next question.
Name 3 West Tigers players who were directly signed from Newcastle.
I don't know if I can name one. Directly signed from Newcastle. Can I phone a friend?
Do you want a hint?
Yeah. Give me a hint.
2 of them are currently playing for us.
Oh, there you go. From Newcastle. No, I'm going to have to phone a friend. I can't think of any names. Too much pressure.
So the first one was Owen Craigie.
Gee, that's going back. Yep.
Stafford Toller.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And David Clemmer.
He did come from Newcastle. There you go.
Newcastle.
Can we send him back?
So here we go. This is your last chance to score a point. Who am I?
Gary.
I was born in Campbelltown in 1985. I debuted for the West Tigers in 2008, making 8 appearances in 2 seasons. I joined St. George Illawarra for 2 years and spent 1 year at the Roosters. At some point in my sporting career, I played college American football at Baylor University. I am of Fijian heritage. My name is an anagram of vintage pie.
Vintage pie? Marcus Pie.
When did he play for us?
I know he didn't. I don't know.
Penny
Fijian. Yeah. I remember Penny got knocked out semi-final for the Magpies in 2008. I actually had to run on the field and help him out. But yeah, anyway, good player. Zero
Yeah,
from
so
5. I'm proud of that.
0 from 5. I think. I don't know if even Steve has ever gone 0 from 5.
No, he said that he had, so I was happy to match him. I'm happy with that.
I'll ask him after the pod whether he's ever gone 0 from 5. Yeah, like especially when like there's 50-50 questions in there. There's a multiple choice and 0 from 5. I think I know we had you pretending to be Richo earlier. I think there may be a phone call from Shane Richardson coming your way tomorrow asking for your membership back.
I was pretending to be Lee Hadjipantelis during that quiz, by the way.
I do think you may lose your membership over this.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever the consequences are, Gary, I can deal with it, mate. It's all good. Sorry, Yachty. Good questions.
I have to say thank you for joining me tonight, Nick. You manned up and 2 pods in a row. I do have to ask, like, you're on here just about every episode now.
Sorry.
Are you trying to take Steve's position?
No, we discussed this the other night, Gary. I've already taken it. Sorry, Steve. You're out, mate.
Thanks for joining me, Nick. Thanks for listening, everyone who got through an hour and a bit of just Nick and I talking. If anyone is still listening now, come and see me at the next game and I'll shout your hot dog.
And I think we left Eddie in the waiting room. I think you can see him there. Sorry, Eddie.
I've already done that joke once tonight. I'm not going to do it a second time. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, Gary.